What is going on, Panthers Nation? Carolina Dad here, your host of the Two Growls, One Roar podcast. Hope y'all are doing well. Hey, folks, summer is here. School is out, and football is going to be on a bit of a break for the Carolina Panthers over the next, 40-ish days. So today I wanted to give you an update just in general on the podcast, what you can look for over the next, 5 or 6 weeks until we get into training camp. So from a news perspective, it's probably going to be pretty light. Like we're going to hear, the Panthers and Bryce Young are out throwing balls in California or Texas, wherever it is. We'll see those things coming. We'll see guys training, going through that process, all those highlights, hopefully pretty relatively low news cycle. There's not a lot that's going to be happening for the Panthers. Maybe the Eddie Pinheiro news. Like, I don't know if this guy's getting an extension right now, but as far as like contracts and other things, not a lot to watch for. One thing we will continue to monitor is, hey, are the Panthers going to cut or waive someone and then bring in a Stephon Gilmore, a cornerback, an edge player, whoever that is, as we get prepared for training camp? Quite a few storylines to talk about coming out of mandatory minicamp, and that is the health of DJ Wonham and Jonathan Brooks. Jonathan Brooks, we all expected, at least I did. I had people who kept saying, oh, he's going to be ready by training camp. He's going to be ready by training camp. And I'm like, just because the coaches say that, months as a player's getting drafted doesn't mean that's the case. And we know these things take time. ACL, in November of last year is when he tore that, Jonathan Brooks. And now it's going to take a little bit of time to rehab. And it makes sense for them to take their time in getting Jonathan Brooks back in the lineup. Don't rush it. You've got your backs here, Raheem, Miles, Chuba, maybe in a Rashad Penny. We'll see. A Mike Boone, who knows? Sheridan off of as an undrafted free agent who may make it. Hey, you got all these other guys. Let's take our time. So it doesn't concern me at all. I am looking forward to Brooks getting back in the lineup. I'm looking forward to seeing his production, but I'm not concerned. DJ Wonham, I'm a little more concerned about. Coming off the quad surgery, sounds like there was kind of some setbacks. I mean, he is the player that it's supposed to be replacing Brian Burns. Like maybe you say Clowney. I think Clowney, we're not going to see as much production sack-wise this year as we did last year. I hope we do. But I think he came from a Baltimore Ravens defense that had a lot of playmakers around him, which enabled him to get to the quarterback a little bit more. Known as a run stopper. That's what Clowney's known for. Loves to stop the run. He even talked about in his presser this week that he just doesn't want to let people run the ball on him, and we need that mentality. But I do think about the guys behind them, the rotation itself. We're going to need to see some guys step up, because the one thing about the Panthers and this team this year and the defense is that we're going to need to make some improvements. We're going to need to get pressures, to get sacks on the quarterback. So those are some of the storylines. But when I think about the roster, we do wonder, usually you're going to see some attrition or have someone coming out and like, oh yeah, let's pick up this guy. We're number one in the waiver wire. So you always have that to your benefit. Now, it may take a little bit of time. Like some teams may not decide to cut or waive guys until right at training camp. We know once you get into training camp, that's where it's kind of a revolving door. Not tons of guys, but you're going to see some players getting signed, some players getting cut. It just flows, man. Just flows through as things happen. Now, remember, if you aren't familiar with the way the roster cuts work, it's 90 players up until the final cut. So remember, in years past, you had like designated days and you go from like 90 to 75 to 60, whatever it is, getting down to your 53. Get to carry 90 the whole way, which is a great opportunity for a lot of these undrafted guys, rookies, to get playing time and exposure in the preseason. Lots of stuff, man. But as far as the podcast itself, so we got a lot of things happening, or I do at least. One, if you don't know, I'm going to be on the Mac and Bone show this Monday. I'm recording this on Saturday, June 15th. So that would be the 17th. It'll be available on their podcast, I hope. Hopefully they don't cut us out. But I'll be joined by Ricky Bobati. So fans, if you're a Panthers fan, content creator, Ricky. Got some good news too. Also working on getting him on the show. him and Alex of the Kitty Lit podcast. So it should be fun. So I got those guys lined up. I've got a bunch of other names, and I'm not even going to tell y'all yet who we're getting. But over the next like month and a half, I do plan on continuing to bring on guests. This week was a little bit slower because there was, a lot of stuff happening on my side personally. But we've got Alex Zetlow, the Charlotte Observer, who was on. We've had Ryan Smith of Inside the Vault podcast. He was on here as well, the Keep Pounding Sports Network. Lots of words, right? Lots of words to spit out. And then I've got a bunch of others. So I'm looking at other content creators. I'm also looking for fans that want to join the show. So I'm open to anyone that wants to talk Panthers. Of course, I'm going to diverge out and try to bring on some guests, as big as I can. I don't know that we'll get any players, maybe former players at some point, but we are at least branching out into expanded media just to give different insights, because y'all hear me talk nonstop. You hear me come on here, ramble about my takes on the Panthers. And yeah, I like to bring on other ideas, other thoughts. And it's nice to kind of sit back a little bit and listen to what other people think about the show. Now, coming in to talk about training camp, what is training camp going to look like? We're waiting to find out. We haven't gotten in any information that you're not gonna be able to have fans this year. My expectation, one, if you're following the Panthers and know everything that's happening with stadium renovations or proposal for stadium renovations, with proposals for the practice facility, everything that's gonna happen, like none of that's gonna be done. None of that is gonna be in place. So you're talking about walking into a practice facility field, and that's it. My guess is they're going to roll out bleachers, probably have things fenced off, maybe a little bit of, standing area. I don't know capacity wise how many people can actually fit in there. If you went to Spartanburg, Spartanburg was in Walford, had that really nice hill, I guess hills on both sides, and a nice walking area at the back of the end zones so you could navigate around. And there was, I don't know, thousands of people that could fit in there. And I know they did back together at the stadium as well. My guess this year is we're going to see availability, and it's going to be ticketed, because we already saw last year they introduced Ticketmaster and it was free, but you had to get your Ticketmaster tickets to get into training camp. I think it's going to be the same. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a fee. You're going to have limited spots, and I don't know if that means, hey, this group you pay $5, $10 to get into training camp. We see other NFL teams already doing this. If you have a VIP section for PSL owners, season ticket holders, that maybe they get an upgraded section or get to the autographs. I don't know. One thing that I liked about last year was that they sectioned off the autograph section just for kids and have like a section for them. Like, dude, if y'all are grown people going down there trying to jump over kids to get autographs, like, come on. Let's be better human beings. These are kids that should be getting them, not adults that are fighting to sell them online. Now, I'm not saying adults shouldn't. Like, if you want to pursue an autograph, go for it, but don't be jumping over kids and knocking them down. Let the kids get the autographs, and because I know a lot of people probably just take it and resell it, or hey, save it for your collection. What I don't know with training camp is, one, I want to go down, but I don't know when the dates are. I also know they're talking about doing some things in South Carolina. I don't know if that means going to Clemson, if it means going to University of South Carolina. Like, I was thinking bigger venues, they may look at smaller ones, or if they just go on a tour in somewhere smaller and just have like meet and greet spread out. I don't know what it's going to be like. I do think they'll probably do something at Bank of America Stadium, similar to what they did last year with the open practice. I know they have done that in years past. I would expect that. The music light show thing, that was fun. So I think they would probably have that as well. This is me just kind of guessing out of the box what it's going to look like. When it comes to training camp, when I go, if we get to go this year, I don't think I'm going to be as focused on like in the weeds, tweeting out every single thing that's happening, but probably just general, hey, what does this look like? Environment, coaches, players, because we're, trying to see what the culture looks like. But I also want to talk to some of y'all. Talking to fans, I'm going to try my best to figure out a way to maybe interview a few fans while we're there. So I think that's the other thing that I'm trying to build out with this show and this platform, is getting more involved with, people live, not necessarily live, but interviewing other people on the spot versus like the podcast format. Because I know there's a lot of good content out there to do that as well. Man, a lot of talking for early Saturday morning, which is not bad at all. But I will be out a few days traveling down, speaking of South Carolina, to Spartanburg to visit family. So for the podcast itself, I'm gonna have, I guess, 2 or 3 videos coming up with previews of the 90-man roster. I may come back and just overhaul this thing, but for right now, I did split out the quarterbacks. So I've recorded this thing like 3 times. So I went through quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends, and I went through each person. The audio was messed up, unfortunately, through StreamYard. So then I recorded it again and did a smaller group of players, messed up again, and then went back one more time, recorded it, and it just wasn't working. So I don't know if I'm going to scratch that. I may decide. I've got the quarterbacks recorded in a different, like outside of StreamYard. So I may come back and decide, all right, I'm going to do all the running backs in one podcast. I'm going to do all the tight ends, receivers, work through the position groups that way. My plan would be to do single videos, but that's going to take a lot. And with having issues in the ones I recorded already, I'm just losing time, not being able to cut and clip what I have. So, anyways, folks, that's going to do it for me today. This is Carolina Dad. You all have a good one.